Okay, so now we're about to write the code for the application. Let me just demo it for you really quickly. We have the interface in place, and I'm going to enter, how about a value that we know, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to convert that, and we have 32 degrees Fahrenheit is equal to 0 degrees Celsius. So we know it's working, and I haven't coded the exit button yet, so that's not functional, but let's take a look. And before we really dig into the code here, we need to talk a little bit about some of the C# data types. This is not a comprehensive list, but these are the ones that we're going to be using over and over again. So, of course, there's the integer, and that is good for storing whole numbers that do not have a decimal component. So don't make that your go-to numeric type, because a lot of the applications that we do in class are going to be money, for example, and money is never an integer. So yeah, so and then there's the double. That's one of the decimal types, very precise decimal type. There's also a less precise decimal type called the float. Okay. And that's if you don't need a tremendous amount of decimal precision. So for like a lot of our programs in class, we just have a quick little number, a quick little value. Precision is never really a huge issue for us in what we do in class. The float is fine. Typically, like the less, the fewer bytes that a data type takes up in memory, the less precision you're going to get from that data type. So there's always this trade-off. If you have these really precise data types, like the double, for example, or the decimal, they take up more memory than, say, the float and some of the other less precise data types. But anyway, I'll talk about this, like these suffixes, in another video. I don't want to go down that road right now. As that comes up, we'll talk about it later. But okay, so the decimal type is really good for money and financial values. This is not a money program right now, but we'll be doing plenty of those. So I use the decimal in a lot of my demos when we're dealing with money, little shopping programs and things like that. You'll see decimals. The char type or the character type is for, you know, letters or just a single character from the keyboard. The Boolean type is for true-false values. We'll be looking at some of those. And then, of course, the string type, which is good for storing strings of characters encased in single or double quotes. Oh, and I should mention that the char type, on the other hand, those character values go in single quotes. The strings go in double quotes. Okay. All right, so that's your whirlwind of the C# data types. Let's not just get too hung up on all this right here. We'll use the data types as we need them as we go through the examples. So for this program, for example, I have decided to use a double. I could have just as easily used the float or the decimal, but I use the double. And here's what we're going to do. When the user clicks the convert button, you know how this behaves. The user is going to enter a temperature in degrees Fahrenheit and then click convert. And what's going to happen when they click convert, we're going to have to reach into this text box, pull out the number that the user entered in degrees Fahrenheit, and then convert that value to degrees Celsius just by running it through a formula. Okay, so very simple program, simple formula, but here's the thing. That number, the degrees Fahrenheit, like the 32 that I entered, is entered into that text box, and we can access that number through the text box's text property. Okay. However, we have to parse that value. When anything that is in a text box, anything, even if it's a number, is a string by default. So when I enter 32, I, the user, enter 32, my program does not see this. My program sees this. And there's a huge difference. The huge difference is you can't do math. You cannot do math with a string, with string data type. So we have to convert that 32, in quotes, the string 32, to this, which we can use and do math with. And this process is called parsing. When you parse a number, you pick through it digit by digit and convert it to a number, from a string to a number. So that's what we're doing here. We're saying, take what's in that text box, and the text box is text property, and we're parsing it through the double dot parse method. Okay, so this is every time you reach into a text box and get something the user entered. You're going to be doing that a lot in this class. You're going to have to parse it. In this case, I'm using a double. I'm putting this into a double variable. This is why I'm doing double dot parse. Okay, but if I had done let's say I had done an integer. Let's say I didn't care about fractions of degrees, then I would have to do int.parse. Okay, the parse method that you call has got to match the data type that you want as a result. So I'm really killing two birds with one stone in this statement. I'm parsing what's in that text box, and then I'm putting that result into a variable, which I've called degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. Again, choosing the appropriate data type. And I'll go back to double on this, but just want to let you know that you need consistency here. Whatever data type you want to end up with, that's the parsing method that you have to call. Okay. So now that the number is parsed and it's something that we can use, it's in this variable. All right, so now I want to run this through the formula to get degrees Celsius, okay? And then when the dust settles and all said and done, I'm going to be holding another number, which is the degrees Celsius. So I've got to put that somewhere. Where do I put it? Into a variable. So I've created another variable called degrees Celsius. Notice it's a double, okay? And this is the formula that we run through. As you know, I just found it online. It's the kind of thing you've done before, maybe in a high school science class, converting Fahrenheit to Celsius. And yeah, so the thing with programming is you're confined to one line with your formula. And arithmetic of order of operations does matter. So if I had something like this, if I forgot the parentheses, that would be a problem. I would not get the correct result. Okay. Need to be careful. Need to be mindful of that. Okay, so we have our formula, and this will be the degrees Celsius. So what's left is to display the answer to the user. And this is what we would call a concatenation operation. Concatenation. And it's really just like kind of piecing everything together with the plus signs. We have a mixture of variable values. Okay, so I have the number that's in the degrees Fahrenheit. Let me run this again just so we can get an idea of the output. Okay, so I'm going to enter 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Look at the output here, 32. Okay, that's my degrees Fahrenheit. I put the degree symbol. I'll show you how you can do that. Fahrenheit is, and then the answer that we got, the correct answer is 0 in this case, another degree symbol. So let's take a look at how we did that. So this will give you whatever value the user entered that we parsed. Okay, so in this case it was 32. This will give you the degree symbol. This is called an escape sequence. An escape sequence when you have a backslash and some code. In this case, I have a Unicode, which will give us the degree symbol. You don't have to know this, you don't have to memorize this, but if you're ever looking to make a special character, like a degree symbol, for example, or maybe the euro symbol or some kind of foreign currency symbol, just Google Unicode degree symbol or Unicode euro symbol, and you'll get this code, and you can just plug it into your code with a /U. Okay, so anyway, and then we have the hard-coded Fahrenheit is, okay, hard-coded. Even the spaces are hard-coded. You really have to, take responsibility for everything you want to see in your output. If you want a space, you've got to hard-code that space there. Otherwise, it's not going to look so good. And then the plugging in the number Celsius, this is where we would get the 0, the result of our equation, and then another degree symbol, and then the word Celsius, and that's that. Okay, so we have, it's a lot going on. Very simple program, but a lot going on with the parsing and, the concatenation. But this is basically the gist of a lot of the programs that we'll do, especially in these next couple of weeks, is, having the user enter some value, running it, parsing it out of that text box, and then running it through a formula, and then displaying the result to the user.